Hi everyone. Hope you are able to watch the screen, and if yes, just raise a thumbs up so that it becomes easier for us. Hi Anmol. Hi Adesh. Are you able to hear me clearly? Cool. Uh, yeah. So the topic what we will be doing today is going to be majorly on identifying what's an asset, what's a liability, how is that we shall be finding our contingent liability and a contingent asset. So first, let us try understanding what's an asset. Now, when I say an asset, let's just try taking an example of what is there in terms of a machinery. Now, when I say a machinery, is it an asset? Or when I say a loan, is it an asset? Now, what's the difference between both of it? Now, when I say a machinery we say is an asset because we own it. Since I own it, I call it as an asset. But what made you own it? Is it this is because you are expecting to get some future benefit. If you are not going to be getting any future benefit out of any particular item, we don't generally call it as an asset. Now, see, when you're buying a machine, you are paying for it, or you would have done something in the past. Maybe you would have rendered a service. That's why somebody maybe would have gifted you. So, to say something to be an asset, what we need to understand is that first it should be something which has happened because of the past. So maybe you would have purchased it, maybe you would have rendered a service, and because of it you are exchanging it. The second component of it is the controlling power. The controlling power of the asset should be with the enterprise. The third one is because of it, future economic benefit should flow into an enterprise. So to call anything to be an asset, there are three components. One, the resource should be controlled by the enterprise. Second, this should have happened because of a past event, and because of it, future economic benefit should flow into an enterprise. Now see the definition. The definition says an asset is a resource controlled by the entity. Controlled by the entity. Why are you controlling it? Because of the past event. So here, this is what I said. Result of the past event, it can be either you have purchased it, or maybe because of exchange of resources or anything, and because of it, future economic benefits are expected to flow into the entity. So I think this is fine with you guys. An asset is basically a resource controlled by the enterprise as a result of the past event, and from which future economic benefits are expected to flow into the entity. Is everyone clear with the definition? Is there any doubt which you guys want me to address before we go to the next one? If everything is yes, you can just send a thumbs up so that I can move to the next one. Now comes the next one. What's a liability? Now, when I say a difference between an asset and a liability, what I need to understand is that what I need to understand is why would there be a liability? See, if an asset is resource controlled, a liability will be an obligation. So if an asset is resource controlled, a liability shall become an obligation. The second point which you guys will have to understand is, in an asset we expect future benefits to flow. That is, you expect benefits to come within the enterprise. Whereas when I say an liability, a liability, you are expected to have an outflow of the economic benefits. So are you clear with the definition? So are you everyone's clear with the definition of what's an asset and what's a liability? So now let us come to the guys. Are you able to see it? Because I am finding some issues out here. So just uh, okay, perfect. So let us come to the next one. Now, so look into the definition of the liability. It says, as I said, it's a present obligation arising from the past event, and you are expected to have an outflow. Whereas now if you look into the definition of an asset, same thing. Here it was resource controlled, again past event. Here benefits are expected to flow to the enterprise. Clear? So now let's come to the contingent liability. Now, what is a difference between a contingent asset and a contingent liability? See, when I say a contingent liability or a contingent asset, now see here, let's take a case that X has filed a case against Y, saying that he has supplied a defective goods. So who has filed case? X has filed case against Y that he has supplied a defective goods. Now when X has supplied, so he is saying for a damage of 2000 rupees. This is the damage he is claiming. Now Y, look into it. If X wins the case, X should be getting 2000. If Y loses the case, Y will end up paying 2000, right? So X winning the case. Now I want you guys to understand what is happening out here. Now there is a case filed by X on Y. There's a case which has been filed by X on Y. Now the decision of the case, is it controlled by X? The answer is no, because the decision shall be taken by the judge. Now once X wins a case which is beyond his control, X might get some money out of it. So when we say a contingent asset, we say a contingent asset is basically an possible asset which is arising out of my past event where the entity, the happening or not happening of an event is beyond the control. Beyond the control. Now, the same thing when I say to liability, contingent liability. Now, I want you guys to just look into it. When I say a contingent liability, see here, it's a possible obligation which is arising from a past event, the existence of which will be confirmed only by occurrence or non-occurrence of certain events which are not within the control. Now I want you guys to look into the case of Y here. Now Y loses a case. Y loses a case. Now, if you are you sure of Y losing a case? The answer is no. That's why I said it's a possible obligation. If Y ends up losing, and can he control the case? The answer is no, because the judge is going to give you the judgment to it. So when Y is going to be losing a case on this, if Y loses, fine. So that's where I said the occurrence or non-occurrence of one or more uncertain future events which are beyond, you cannot control the judgment given by the any Supreme Court or the High Court one. Now the existence of which, that is whether Y will pay or not, will depend on the judgment by the court. Now there is another thing you need to understand. Now for an asset, it becomes a possible asset that arises from past events. Just this word, instead of obligation, you change it to an asset. This becomes a contingent asset. Now comes a little trickier part. Now I want you guys to focus on the second part of the definition. Now what does it say? See, now let's say X has filed a case against Y. Y lost the case. Now Y has lost the case, but is not sure whether there would be a cash or is going to be imprisoned. Now, if there is a cash outflow, yes, accounting makes a difference. But if he's imprisoned, accountant doesn't even bother. He'll say, boss, it's a non-monetary transaction. If it is something which has got to do with cash, yes, the accountant will have to worry about it. Now comes the second part. That if, let's say, Y lost the case, the court has said you have to pay the money, but court has not said how much money. Now I want you guys to look into this example and then try connecting with the question. The first part, it says it is not probable that an outflow of resource will happen. Let's say if you have learnt any of your case laws, it says if found guilty, he shall be imprisoned or fined up to 5,000. See, in both the things, if somebody is imprisoned, there won't be an outflow. Whereas if he's fined up to 5,000, yes, there would be an outflow to an enterprise. So what it is saying is, the court has said I'm guilty, but they have not told whether they're going to give me an imprisonment or are they going to be telling me to be paying cash. The second one, the court has said you will be paying cash, but they are telling me that we cannot make a estimate. So it says we'll be paying somewhere between 500 to 10,000, or let's say 500 to 5,000. I cannot know what it is. Are you clear? So if everyone has understood this, just you can say yes, or else I'll just repeat it. So to be a contingent liability, there are two scenarios. The first scenario is that there's a possible obligation which is beyond the control of an enterprise, and it depends on happening or not happening of an event. Second one,